The story begins with a tale of ancient times, when a castle stood among the ice and rose thorns. In the middle of this cold and quiet castle lived a prince who hated smiles, and anyone who dared to smile at him was immediately severely punished. So the servants tried to hide their faces as soon as they saw the prince. As the ice came closer and closer, trapping the castle in the ice, people realized that they would most likely have to leave the house. The rose bushes grew, and with their thorns like a needle, they completely displaced all the inhabitants of the castle. The place that had once been filled with life was now empty, and only the prince was left to live among the wild roses. The protagonist finds himself in the city, but he stands his ground again, having just caught a newly hired maid smiling. He starts shouting about the prohibition of smiling so that the new hire can hear it for sure. The worker, who had been working for the boy for a long time, assured him that this would not happen again, justifying the girl by saying that she had just arrived here recently and had not had time to fully understand her duties. Gona apologized and promised that she would personally make sure that this would not happen again. The women were very sorry and apologized again to Mr. Gong. The angry boy walked away toward the garden. The women could not stand in the way of the boy, so they resigned themselves to the fact that he simply left. He grumbled under his breath about how much he was tired of them. He was thinking about what reason he had to smile. Suddenly, a girl's voice came from under the bushes, saying that they had no reason to smile, and that they didn't really want to smile, but were just pretending because they were all fakes. The boy did not realize who it was, until he saw the girl coming out of the rose bushes and screaming, "Ouch!" The boy's surprise was overwhelming, wondering how the girl had ended up in the garden, who she was, and what she was doing on his territory. Many questions were swirling in his head. The girl greeted Gong, interrupting his thoughts, and introduced herself as Sarah Jung. The girl began to ask many questions about Gong's house and whether he lived there. Gong was amazed at the huge size of the house. Sarah's mother takes her to work with her and leaves her in the staff room, but Sarah does not like to sit there. The girl was surprised by how the house looks like it is identical to the buildings shown on TV. Sarah thought it was good for Gong to live here. The boy wondered why it was good to live in this mansion. The girl enthusiastically began to tell him how soft the grass was and that it didn't even hurt to fall. He also has a place to hide, and there are many trees on the property that he can safely climb. The boy wondered why they had to climb trees, but their conversation was interrupted by a maid who was passing right where they were talking. Sarah immediately ordered the boy to hide, grabbing his hand and pulling him into the hiding place. Gon did not understand why they had to hide. Sarah said that her mother had forbidden her to walk around the house, so she could not know that the girl was in the garden. Sarah invited the boy to play together. He just said nothing. The girl suggested playing in another part of the garden, saying that her mother would be busy for a long time. Gon agreed, and Sarah was very happy, so she smiled at him sincerely. The boy asked why she was smiling. The girl did not understand the question. The boy explained that Sarah didn't even know him, so why was she smiling at him? The girl was surprised by his question and said that she was smiling at him because she wanted to smile. Gong replied that he hates it when people smile. But the smile did not stop on the girl's face. He told her to stop smiling. Sarah said she wouldn't, but the smile never left her face. The girl took Gong to the garden, and one of the maids noticed. Looking out the window of his house, the boy saw the worried face of Sarah's mother. In his office, the maid was apologizing for her daughter's behavior. The senior maid assured him that it would not happen again because Sarah's mother would be fired. The girl's eyes filled with tears, and she could hardly stop herself from crying. Gong's response surprised everyone. He assured them that everything was fine and that no one needed to be fired. Sarah's mother was extremely grateful to him and promised that this would never happen again. She took her daughter by the hand and led her out of the room. Sarah looked at the boy with tearful eyes, and her mother told her to move faster. The next day, while walking in the garden, the boy saw 2 candies on a freshly picked leaf, and there were pebbles around the leaf. Gon said he saw Sarah and asked why she was hiding. He wondered if the girl would be punished for being in the garden again. Gona said that nothing had changed, and she would be scolded in the same way. But she couldn't help but thank Gon for not firing her mom, which was her fault. The guy thanked her for the treats and said that Sarah could come out from behind the bushes and he would keep her secret. Sarah said that she could not go out because her mother told her not to be naughty, even though she had come back to the garden. She asked if she was disturbing Gon. He said no. Sarah's face lit up with a smile and her eyes sparkled with joy. Gon did not say anything to the girl about the smile, even though he hates smiles. Tachina gladly offered to play, and Gon agreed. The girl's face began to shine even more with joy. Gon was tired of it, so he asked Sarah to stop smiling. The girl suggested that they play princess. Gon thought that Sarah would be the princess, but she said that Gon would be the princess. He wondered why he was the princess and not the prince, and who Sarah would be. Sarah said that in this game there are no princes, but a princess and a queen. Gona often plays this game with her mom, and her mom is always the queen. Today, Sarah will be the queen and Gon will be the princess. He started to get angry. Why should he be a princess? He is a boy, so he should be a prince. The girl calmed him down. Gon is beautiful, so he can handle the role of a princess. Gon, not seeing any logic in this, flatly refused to be a princess. If he had the role of a prince, he would think about playing this game, and in general, he is always very busy. The girl asked what exactly Gon was so busy with, and he briefly replied that he was studying science, and advised Sarah to study more and not just play. The girl said that she would be studying a lot in the near future, so she could fool around for now. Sarah started asking Gon to play again. She agreed that the boy should be a prince if it was so important to him. Gon thought that if he was a prince, then Sarah would be a princess, but she said she would be a queen. She always wants to have a higher status role. Sarah grabbed Gon and asked him gently if he was tired of studying, and said she would sing him a lullaby. She placed the boy's head on her knee and began to rock Gon, whispering, "Hush, my baby." Suddenly, the boy fell into a dream. He found himself in a huge castle. With tears in his eyes, he ran around looking for his mother. When he met the maids, they said they did not know where Her Majesty was. Suddenly, Gong saw his sister and asked her where his mother was. But his sister snapped at him, saying that she was his mother and he should know better. The boy began to cry harder. He could no longer control his tears, so he began to pour them out. His sister told him to stop crying and wiped his eyes with a handkerchief, adding that princes do not cry. Noticing the boy's poor appearance, the sister ordered him to go wash his face. Gong was lonely and wanted to be with his sister, but she told him not to follow her. The boy was surrounded by maids with wide smiles, asking what His Majesty was doing, and the boy again said that he could not find his mother. The women ignored his problem, saying that it was a beautiful day and that he wanted to sleep. At this point, the smiles on the maids' faces began to remind the boy of the terrible grimaces that called to him, and the dream became a nightmare, and he woke up. Sarah saw the concern on Gon's face and asked if he had a nightmare. When he woke up, the girl told her that while he was sleeping, he made sounds like he was in pain, and she asked him what he had dreamed and if it was a ghost. The boy was coming to, so he was silent for a few seconds and then said no. Gon began to say the word mom, and Sarah did not understand, so she asked him again. The boy replied that he had dreamt that his mother was scolding him. The girl asked why her mother scolded him, and without waiting for an answer, she assumed that her mother scolded the boy because he fell asleep during school. The girl said she would make Gon a red sun. The boy asked what she wanted to do, but Sarah just repeated the words red sun and started running her hands over his head. The red sun is a phrase used by Kim Jong-uk. He claimed that through hypnosis he helps people see previous lives, quit smoking, lose weight, and achieve what they need by shouting out the red sun, raising his hands and putting people into a trance. Sarah assured the boy that he would forget his bad dream and started waving her hands over his head. The boy did not understand what she was doing. Sarah said that it was a special spell to take away bad memories. Her mother always does it for her. The boy doubts that it helps because he did not forget the dream. Although the girl stood her ground, saying that this technique would completely erase the bad dream, and if he had another bad dream, she would be there for him. Looking at the smiling Sarah, the boy recalls those terrifying silhouettes from his dream that smiled at him just as broadly. Gon asked the girl why she was always smiling. Gona immediately replied that she liked to play with him. Sarah remembered that Gon didn't like smiling, so she tried to hide it by puffing out her cheeks. Surprisingly, Gon allowed her to smile. She didn't have to hold back. Her smile looked different from the nightmare smiles. Sarah couldn't get over the fact that Gon allowed her to smile, so she decided to ask again if the boy had really allowed her to smile. Gon remembered that he could be punished for looking untidy, so he started fixing his hair with his hands, and Sarah asked who would scold him for it, thinking it would be his mother. Gon replied that his sister would scold him. Sarah also wanted a sister, so she said that Gon was lucky to have a sister. The boy did not sound very happy and said that maybe it was really cool. Sarah saw that something was wrong, so she asked the boy if he liked his sister. Gon replied that his sister hated him, and Sarah interrupted him by saying that her friends said the same thing. All of Sarah's friends told her that they hated their siblings and always argued with them. Gon was surprised by the girl's words. He did not know that everyone had such a situation. After the walk with Sarah, Gon went home, and in the kitchen he had dinner with his sister and father. There was no fun in the room, no love for each other among the family members. Suddenly, the father said that yesterday he had received a list of Horan's grades. She was doing well, but her math was not perfect. The father said that the girl needed to solve the problem with this subject, and the grades for the next test should be better. The father also received Gong's grades, and he praised him, emphasizing that the boy's good grades were because he was his son. Comparing him to Horan, the father said that Gon was doing even better than his sister did at his age. And soon, Gon will probably go to the same class as his older sister. His father encouraged him to study hard, because the best would inherit the company. His father said nothing more. After a long look into her brother's eyes, Horan said she understood and would study harder. The next day, Gon tried to climb trees like Sarah does, but at one point he asked himself why he did it. 3 hours earlier, Gon had been reading a book and felt the gaze of his angry sister, her hatred understandable because her father had higher hopes for her brother and treated him better, while he treated her coldly. Sarah interrupted Gon's recollection of this by asking him how to solve the example, and the boy gladly explained how to do it. The girl was delighted that Gon had solved this difficult problem so quickly, which she could not understand, and said that he was very smart. The girl picked up the book and asked him if he could solve everything in it, and he calmly replied that he could. It seemed cool to the girl, but Gon treated it as a normal thing. Sarah said that when she was as old as Wam, she would be able to do that too. And the boy said that with a lot of effort, anything was possible. Sarah promised that she would try hard and study a lot to become as smart as Gong, and the boy wished her good luck. The girl asked Gon to explain another topic, and he was happy to do so. Sarah was very grateful for the lessons and said that he was the smartest person she knew. Wam was very pleased, and a smile flashed across his face for a moment. Gom decided to improve his relationship with his sister and knocked on her door. As usual, his sister rudely asked what he wanted. Gong stood with a book in his hands and asked her to explain a math topic he didn't understand. Horan was surprised that her brother came to ask her for advice, saying that she was better at it. But still, Horan did not want to make contact with her brother. She told him to ask someone else and pushed him in the chest and closed the door in his face. Gong was very sad. Despite his intelligence, he could not understand why his sister was doing this to him. Upset, Gong sat alone on the bench until Sarah approached him asking what had happened and if Gong was well. The boy said that his sister was angry with him, and after he asked her for help with math, she began to hate him. Sarah thought that the problem was too hard that even his sister could not solve it. Gong said that was not the case. He thought that his sister would also like it if he asked her for help, but it didn't work out the way he wanted. Sarah decided to encourage him and said that she could help him. Gon talked her out of it, and Sarah was sure he would help her until she saw unknown sets of symbols she didn't even know. Gon said it was 10th grade math. Realizing that she would not be able to cope with this, Sarah quickly switched to another topic and asked Gon if he had ever tried to climb a tree. The boy replied that he had not. With great enthusiasm, Sarah pulled the boy along to teach him how to climb trees. Gon was surprised at how easily Sarah gave up the hard science and walked toward the trees. Only in the tree did Gon regain consciousness. Sarah praised him for his efforts, but told him that if he was seen in the tree, he would be punished. Gon asked the girl why she climbed trees, and Sarah said she just liked it. Gon liked the view from the tree. Everything was so beautiful. He had never seen such a view before. The girl asked Gon if he liked it here, and after a bit of thought, he said that it was really nice in the tree. Sarah almost fell out of the tree because her hand slipped off a branch. Gon was very worried about her, although Sarah happily told him that nothing had happened to her and that he shouldn't worry. The children were having a good time in the tree, but Warren saw them. A day later, Sarah came to Gon in a fluffy dress, holding a small handbag. The boy asked what it was, and Sarah opened the bag and showed him how many candies her mother had bought her for her birthday yesterday. Sarah wanted to share them with Gon. The boy was surprised. He did not know that Sarah had a birthday yesterday. Sarah was happy to tell him that it was a wonderful holiday. Her grandmother cooked a delicious seaweed soup with lots of meat. Now Gon understood why the girl was absent yesterday. He asked Sarah if she had fun. She wanted to invite Gon to her birthday party, but her mother forbade her, so Sarah took candy with her and even prepared wet wipes to wash her hands. Sarah enthusiastically told him that the chocolate sweets were the most delicious and also very beautiful. Gon took the package in his hand, but it started to leak. Chocolate drops smeared his clothes. Sarah started to apologize. She was sad that she could not show her friend the beauty of sweets. The children decided that nothing was wrong, so Gon tried the candy, and Sarah wondered if the boy liked it. Gon really liked the candy. Gon said that the sweets had not melted much and were still beautiful. The girl was so enthusiastic about Gon's reaction that she forgot to eat the candy herself. The boy asked why Sarah was not eating the candy and if she would eat it. They began to eat the chocolate together. Gon was afraid that the melted candy would make Sarah cry, but he was not. Gon noticed how much Sarah loved chocolate. He got up quickly and asked the girl to wait on the swing. He quickly ran home. With trembling hands, the boy looked for the same box of chocolates he had seen earlier, and he found it. They looked wonderful. Sarah was delighted. Gon said it was a birthday present for her. The girl also wanted to give him a gift, but Gon said that it was already his birthday, but the girl insisted that it was not important, and she would give him a gift for Gon's next birthday. Sarah started to ask Gon to invite her to his birthday party, but the boy couldn't. A bunch of adults were coming to his birthday party. Sarah thought about grandparents, but Gon said that they were adults he didn't know. The girl asked if he had friends at his birthday parties. Gon said that they also come, but they are not really friends. The party is very boring. Playing with Sarah Gon is much more fun. They agreed that they would celebrate Gon's birthday together the next day. Sarah thanked him for the sweets and ran to her mother to show her the present that Gon had given her. The candies looked very expensive, and the mother asked her daughter if she thanked her for the gift, and Sarah, of course, thanked her for the wonderful box of chocolates. Warren could not find the candy. The maid said that her younger brother had taken it. Gona was very surprised, because he never liked them. Suddenly, she remembered a girl he used to play with all the time. Gon and Sarah are watching the workers cleaning the pool, although neither Gon nor his family swim in it. Sarah wonders why the boy doesn't use the pool. The girl shared her opinion that if she had a swimming pool at home, she probably wouldn't even get out of it, and Gon said that he just doesn't like swimming, which is strange for Sarah to hear because she thinks swimming is fun. Gon recalled a time when he once fell into a swimming pool and couldn't swim, but his father insisted that no one intervene because he thought the pool was not that deep. And if Gon wanted to grow as a hardened person, he had to get out on his own. Instead, the boy fainted. When he woke up, the maids breathed a sigh of relief. The boy was alive. They asked him if he was in pain or if he was worried about anything. They would call a doctor right away. One of the maids asked if she could prepare a light snack for the boy, but the boy was interested in something else. Why the maids were smiling, and the girls thought something was wrong, so they asked the boy if he needed to call a doctor. The boy remembered how he had drowned, and the maids' smiling faces reminded him of those evil grimaces. After collecting his thoughts, Gon told Sarah that he had once almost drowned in a swimming pool, so he no longer swam in it. The girl wanted to sympathize with Gon, so she patted him on the back and asked if he was hurt. Sarah felt sorry for the boy and decided to tell him how she almost drowned at sea because of a cramp in her leg, and she was in terrible pain. For a long period of time, Sarah had nightmares and felt very bad, so she slept with her mother. The boy also could not sleep, and he also needed his mother's love. The father noticed the boy's poor sleep, but did not help him. The only thing he said was that all these problems were due to Gon's weakness. Gon called Sarah to another place, saying that watching the cleaning was boring. Although Sarah was not bored and did not want to leave, Gon suggested an idea that the girl could not refuse. Gon wanted to show me his room. The girl was hesitant because her mother might punish her for wandering around someone else's house. Gon assured her that everything would be fine because it was his room. Still, Sarah decided to walk quietly to avoid being noticed and asked the boy if he had many toys in his room. Gon replied that he didn't have any toys, but he did have books. Sarah didn't like books, but Gon assured her that there were very interesting books, much more fun than toys. Sarah was delighted with Gon's room. It was huge and looked like an adult's room. The boy told her to wait while he brought her some goodies. Meanwhile, Sarah was looking around the boy's office. There were so many awards on the shelves, and in another place there was a globe and something like a globe with a strange shape. Sarah looked at Gon's computer. It looked powerful and very cool. Gon came into the room, and it took him longer than he had planned to take the boy's candy. Gon asked if Sarah was bored during this time. They climbed up on the windowsill and ate sweets. Sarah asked if she could see the globe closer, because she had only seen a globe in kindergarten and Gon had his own. Sarah guessed that the globe was a smaller copy of the planet Earth and that she could find her country on it. Gon praised the girl for her cleverness. The girl continued to look at the globe and boasted that she had studied the map and could draw it without making any mistakes. The girl asked Gon if he had visited other countries. The boy said that he had and showed her each country on the globe. Sarah was curious to know what it was like to be in another country. She thought it was something interesting, but the boy said that there was nothing interesting there. All countries were almost the same. Gon offered to show something interesting, and after closing the blinds, he turned on the second strange thing that was lying next to the globe. It was a star map, and the girl was delighted with what she saw. This thing reminded her of an expensive stone. Sarah started asking Gon what kind of constellation it was. The boy answered that the constellation was called the Big Dipper. Hworin and her friends finished their homework. Hworin's friends suggested that they go swimming in the pool since they could go home later. Even though they did not have swimsuits with them, they agreed that the guests would either buy swimsuits or borrow them from Hworin. Hworin agreed and went to order the workers to fill the pool with water. But then her guests would have to stay for dinner, and they happily agreed. Appetizing pieces of meat were grilling on the grill, and the young people were happily swimming in the pool. Sarah saw her mother and was told to hurry. Sarah was told to stay inside because there were so many guests and a lot of commotion in the house. Suddenly, there was Gon standing right next to them. The maids began to apologize for not seeing him and asked if the boy wanted something to eat. The girls saw Hworin's brother in the pool, and they didn't even think about his existence, because Hworin never talked about him. They looked alike. The girls started whispering to each other. It turned out that Gon and Hworin had different mothers. The girl wondered why her friend was whispering about it, and it turned out that Hworin's mother had died a long time ago from an illness. Hworin kept an eye on her friends and heard everything, and Gona and Sarah passed by. Gona did not say anything to them. The friends continued to gossip. They were surprised that Hworin's father was such a romantic, and he was a romantic because he married a woman of lower status. Although the new life was attractive, the woman left the family because she could not stand the luxury. It turned out that Gon was conceived out of love and not because of contracts, and one of my friends said that she would hate her brother if she were Hworin because of this fact, and that Hworin would lose her position if she made the slightest mistake. Hworin invited the guests home because it was getting quite chilly after sunset. The girls wanted to have dessert in Hworin's room. Sarah and Gon stood in front of the pool filled with water, beautiful reflections playing on the water. The girl wanted to take a closer look at them. Gon refused to go near the pool because the trauma of falling into the water had not yet passed. Sarah liked the pool very much. It was the first time she saw the pool filled to the brim with water. Gon cannot understand how she is not afraid, even though she almost drowned. At that moment, Sarah was splashing the water, which had cooled down. One of the maids suggested that he at least put his feet in the pool. He could hear her smiling as she said it, and as soon as he turned his gaze back to the maid, she turned around. Sarah was showing Gon what kind of waves she had made in the water, and Gon only asked if the girl was having fun. The maid brought some fruit for Gong and his friends. It was then that Gong realized that smiling did not matter so much. Gong's fork had fallen and he needed to get a new one. While Gong was in the kitchen, he asked Sarah if she wanted a Coke and chips, and she happily agreed. A moment later, the girl slipped and fell into the pool. Gong ran toward the pool, terrified. Standing by the pool, he remembered again how he had drowned, remembered again his father's words, and Sarah was sinking to the bottom when she saw Gon's hand in the water. He grabbed her and pulled her to land. Immediately, frightened workers ran up to ask if she was okay. The boy said he was fine, but the girl needed help. Gon's nose was bleeding, which scared the entire staff. Later, Gong woke up in his own bed, and the maid asked if he wanted porridge. But he was worried about the girl's condition. The maid replied that one of the workers had quit for personal reasons. Gong wandered around the house, asking the women workers, and they did not know where the worker had gone. He asked the father where the girl's mother was. It turned out that the father had fired her because of the incident. Moreover, she was interfering with Warren's studies, and with Gon's as well. Gon felt devastated. He couldn't pull himself together, and all he could do was lie there for days remembering Sarah's smile, so warm and sincere. He realized that they hadn't even said goodbye, and that she was crying in the last moment they spent together. Sarah was mesmerized by the grandeur and elegance of the Christmas tree that lit up the main square, but she couldn't help but ask the question, "Mom, why are we spending the night here?" As Sarah watched the registration process, she saw a smile from the woman at the reception desk. The little girl was surprised when her mother noticed it. Her mother asked Sarah what was wrong, and the little girl replied that everything was fine. It was just that the auntie was very beautiful, and she was impressed. They were lucky and won a voucher for accommodation. But Sarah wanted to go to Gona. After finishing all the registration procedures, her mother suggested that she go to the lobby before going to the hotel room. Sarah gladly agreed. Together, they looked at the various interesting things that were located there, such as a huge piano. When Gong, his sister, and his father got off the elevator, they went straight to the huge Christmas tree in the main square. The father was proud of his children and praised them for their hard work. They had really left a positive impression on those who mattered. And strangely enough, everything was going well. Their car was already waiting for them at the hotel. The mother asked Sarah if she liked the women at the reception desk. Sarah replied enthusiastically that she liked them very much and wanted to be just like them. Her mother warned her that it would require a lot of studying, but Sarah was confident that she could do it. Although Gong and Sarah were staying at the same hotel, they never met. A lot of time has passed. Sarah's mother died suddenly, leaving her with her grandmother. The girl dreamed about her mom, how she had to go to work, and Sarah wanted to play for at least a minute longer. Sarah woke up not knowing where her mother was. Gona overheard a conversation about how it was her fault. Sarah thought that her mother had left her because of her bad behavior. Various people told me that Sarah's desire to live with her mother was a strong burden for her, and that it was the child who was to blame for her mother's death. Sarah saw her grandmother in tears and asked if her mother would come, and whether she would not come because of her, because she was harmful. The grandmother was surprised by Sarah's words and asked why the girl thought so. Gona said she had heard it from adults. Sarah wanted her grandmother to ask her mom to come home. She did not know that her closest person would never come back. Sarah was in tears and her grandmother did not know what to say to her. Sarah was ready to do anything to see her mom. The grandmother grabbed her granddaughter and hugged her tightly. She assured her that it was not her fault and Sarah was a very good child. The grandmother told her that her mom was just traveling very far away, so they would live together. Suddenly, the girl arrived at the hotel where she used to stay with her mother, a hotel that left good memories in Sarah's heart about their trip. They had so many plans together that could never be realized again. Opening the heavy cross-shaped, spinning hotel door, she struggled to open it and fell right on the hotel floor, scraping her knees. A hotel worker greeted Sarah and asked if she had hurt herself when she fell. Gona assured the worker that everything was fine, although the scratches from the fall were visible to the naked eye. The worker asked where the girl was coming from. Sarah replied that she had come from Street 20. The worker was surprised that the girl had walked so far. She asked how Sarah had gotten here. The girl immediately replied, proud and sighed for her feet, that she had come by bus. The worker was scared because Sarah was traveling alone in a bus with a huge bunch of people she didn't know. The woman invited Sarah to a hotel. Without answering the worker, the girl called out to her mother, hoping to see her and talk to her. The worker thought that Sarah's mother worked at the hotel, and not seeing her on the list of employees, the hotel administration contacted the competent authorities so that they could find the child's family in time. The woman went to get sweets and medicine. Sarah recalled those moments when she and her mother looked at the same piano in the main hall, how her mother was in awe of its beauty. The girl recalls how her mother promised her to come here again, but this time with her grandmother. Sarah sat there with tears in her eyes. The worker thought that the girl was in pain because the medicines were burning in the wounds. But Sarah started to blame herself for her mother leaving. She thought she was bored with her own mother. The worker hugged the child and told her that she had no reason to cry because she was so cute, and began to stroke her back to calm her down. Suddenly, her grandmother came running, shocked to see how her granddaughter had gotten here. Gona took the girl on her back and told her that they were going home now. The worker insisted on calling them a taxi at her own expense. No matter how much her grandmother refused the free service, the worker persuaded her. Sarah fell asleep in her grandmother's arms. The grandmother did not notice this and thanked the woman for everything she had done, because not everyone would pay attention to a child in such a situation. The worker told her not to wake the girl up and said that she had come here because of her mother. My grandmother told me that Sarah was with her mother in this hotel before she died. The girl did not fall asleep until the end. When she heard this, her eyes were covered with tears, but she did not lose that small drop of hope and hoped that her mother would be able to come to her at least in her dreams. A little time passed. Gon grew up to be a handsome young man, and at school a classmate asked him what features a girl should have to be attractive. The boy asked why they asked him such a question, and they replied that they were having a discussion and he didn't even listen to them. The boys began to repeat that a girl should have a beautiful face and figure, and they wanted to know what Gon thought about this. One of his classmates said that he liked women's feet. The guys immediately began to tease him, saying that a girl could beat him with such legs, and in the worst case, break something. Gon interrupted the discussion by saying that he liked long hair. The boys again came back with their questions and speculations that women's hair hurt. The guy who was constantly talking about beatings was asked why he talked about it so often, if he was beaten often. They changed the subject again, and one of the guys said that he liked funny girls. Some of them thought it was naive. In his defense, the guy said that you can laugh together with a cheerful girl, and if she is also beautiful, you can consider yourself a winner in the lottery. Another of his classmates said that he likes mysterious women. Many people think the guy is hopeless. Then they asked Gon again what type of woman he liked best. The guy named only one criterion, and he smiled sincerely, remembering Sarah's beautiful smile that has stuck in his heart since long ago. His colleagues asked if this was the only factor. Gon added that he likes girls who are good at climbing trees. The guys did not understand Gon at all, and asked him what trees he was talking about, if it was the ones in the yard. His classmates thought that Gon was a pervert and thought he was Tarzan. A boy with glasses interrupted everyone by showing them a tablet with a picture of Ariane, the heroine of a popular mobile game, saying that she was beautiful. Everyone looked at the portrait and agreed with him, because Ariadne is beautiful and has a good figure. The guys quickly switched to discussing the new game update, and everyone started to compare their levels. Gong didn't care about their games. Gong and his family were sitting at the same table with lots of delicious food. Horan asked her father if he had seen her report. Her father replied as coldly as ever that the report was not bad, and that it would help increase the company's budget, and that Horan would have to talk to the company's director. Haverin replied that she would correct the details and send a new report. Hong asked if it was necessary to discuss these cases during dinner. His father said that Hong had a midterm soon, and he couldn't lose his first place in the ranking because his father had high hopes for him and expected him to do well. His father said that Gong should study hard and learn business and its intricacies like his sister. Gong has a long road ahead of him, and he needs to be sure which university he will go to and what profession he will choose. Although Gong is not sure what he wants, because his grades are an automatic pass to any university, he and his sister exchanged cold glances. After dinner, Horan suggested that her brother apply to a foreign university, and she will choose the country that suits him. Gong is surprised because his father is firmly convinced that his son should go to Seoul National University. Gong thinks his sister is either joking or crazy. Horan replied that she was quite serious. Gong asked his sister directly whether she would be better off if he went abroad, adding that he was not interested in business, so he could take everything. Horan quoted her father as telling Gong to go to university and study business. Gong didn't care. He said that if his sister didn't believe him, he was sorry, but there was nothing he could do about it. He said that even the principal was on Horan's side, and she was still afraid of the high school student. Gong told his sister that she was very insecure, which hurt her, so Horan decided to press the sore point for her brother, his mother. Horan said that the guy would not get any business, just like his mother. Gong did not want to continue the conversation, so he stopped his sister and walked away. Gong didn't understand why he was following his father's lead at all. He didn't want to own his business, so he didn't need to study so hard and put a huge amount of his energy and time into each subject. He regrets that he didn't learn more about his mother. If he had been stronger, he could have learned more about his missing mother. Gong wants to run away from home, spinning the globe, just picking any country that falls under his fingers. He is tired of this whole situation. He doesn't want to work for his father's whims anymore. And now we see Sarah, who has also grown up. She is tall, beautiful, and doing well in school. Gona is talking to her teacher, a woman who asks Sarah to think about her choice and not to quit her studies. After all, with her results, she could easily get a scholarship for 4 years. Gona knew that she was doing well in her studies, but she still wanted to work so that she wouldn't be a burden to her grandmother. The teacher stood her ground anyway, that Sarah needed to think about herself and not just her grandmother's condition. But the girl assured the teacher that she wanted to do it herself. The teacher drew the last card. Gona reminded the young girl that she wanted to own a hotel. So here is a 4-year hotel management course. Sarah knew about this option, but she likes the study at Anyang University with an internship better. One of the advantages of this university was short-term language courses in another country. The teacher agreed with the girl, confirming that students speak well of it, and graduates get good working conditions and positions. Sarah returned to class, and her classmates immediately began asking her how the counseling session went and whether she had made any decisions. When the girls asked her where she was going to study, she confidently replied that she would continue her education at Anyang University. Her classmates were surprised by the girl's choice but could not help it. Sarah could easily take the program for 4 years. Sarah agreed with them, but she still wanted to study with her friends at the same school. The girls certainly appreciated Sarah's sacrifice, but she was missing a good chance. The teacher was very upset to learn that Sarah was going to go to Anyang. Gona was so sad that she cried. After all, the girl was her favorite. Her classmates started asking if she had solved the problem with her grandmother. Sarah said that this was her biggest obstacle at the moment. Everyone doubted that her grandmother would agree to it. Her classmates advised her to discuss the matter with her grandmother. The grandmother worked in a small canteen, and the boy had just asked for more delicious kimchi. Sarah came at the moment when the grandmother needed help. The old lady was pulling a huge net with a bunch of products. The girl quickly changed and ran to collect the order. The boy wanted nekken kukap, a soup made of pork intestines and rice. Late in the evening, Grandma and Sarah sat down to dinner. The old woman asked the girl again why she was eating dinner so late again. Sarah answered her questions with her own, asking why her grandmother also sat down to dinner so late. She added whether her grandmother had gone to the hospital. The grandmother did not understand what hospital she was talking about. Sarah said that the old lady had the flu. The grandmother assured her that everything was fine, but Sarah said that all the neighbors already knew about her flu. The old woman knew right away that it was Mrs. Namdak, the wife of her neighbor, who told her about the goat. The granddaughter offered to go to the hospital with her, but the old woman refused, saying that it would pass after she slept. Sarah made it a condition that if she didn't go to the doctor, she would get angry with her. Under such pressure, the old woman finally agreed to go to the hospital. Soon Sarah started a conversation, which she delayed a lot because she was afraid that her grandmother would forbid her to go somewhere. After collecting her thoughts, she said that she was going to go to Indian, especially since the course there is only 2 years instead of the standard 4. Her grandmother calmly replied that she knew. Sarah did not expect such an answer because even her friends had talked her out of it. And her grandmother agreed so easily. Sarah began to talk about her feelings and thoughts that the old lady would be against it. Her grandmother replied that she was not happy about it, but what could she do? Gona knows how hard Sarah studies and sincerely wants her granddaughter to go to the best university. Sarah asked why, and Gona immediately replied that it was Sarah's choice. Wherever she went, whatever she clung to, and whatever she tried, she would always support her granddaughter. As a joke, the grandmother added that she was right, and her granddaughter was the scariest in the world. Sarah broke into a smile. The grandmother turned to Sarah with a smile. Gona sincerely believes in her granddaughter and her success, and wherever she goes, she will become the best. Such pleasant words made Sarah feel very warm, and she decided to hug her grandmother, expressing her sincere gratitude for her support. Gona promised that she would do her best to become the best in the hotel business. Sarah really wants her grandmother to live in comfort. Gona could not let her grandmother go because she loves her so much.
The girls are happy because the exam season is over, and they are now officially students. All of them had something in mind. Sarah's friends wanted to visit many restaurants and cafes, go on dates, and do many things but not study. The first thing that came to Sarah's mind was how many books there were in the student library. The girls step into student life and decide to enjoy it to the fullest. The teacher decided to give the class a 10-minute break. The girls were discussing where to go, and one of their friends told them that she had found a great pizza place. Unfortunately, Sarah can't afford to go with her friends because she has to work an extra shift at the cafe. The girls remembered a strange man who keeps staring at Sarah for hours on end. The guy keeps coming there and watching the girl. Her friends asked if Sarah had asked the manager for help. But for the manager, this is just another client, so he is unlikely to help. The girls were thinking that it would be better if the guy just came up to her and Sarah would just reject him. The second friend suggested that Sarah go on a blind date, and if there was a spark between her and the guy, the strange guy would leave her alone. But Sarah doesn't want to start a relationship just because of that. The guy behind her asked how the girls felt about him. Saniel had just come to class, so he said hello to the beautiful students. The guy assured her that he wouldn't let some weirdo get a hold of her, although Sungyeol didn't look like someone you could trust. The girls started to say that he looked like a jerk, but Sarah interrupted them by slapping the table and saying it was a fly. Some people in the audience woke up. The lecture continued, and the girls complained that they were already hungry, but there was always room for pizza. Sarah came to work and saw the strange guy sitting there watching her again. A colleague asked if she was okay because she looked worried. Sarah pointed to the hooded guy and said, "He's back again." Her colleagues decided to help her. One of them could switch with Sarah. The girls moved away from the cashier's counter, leaving Sarah for a while because they forgot where they had put the rag. The strange guy kept his hood on and sat on his phone, occasionally glancing at the girl. A slender young man who had just graduated from the army approached the counter. He asked for 2 iced Americanos. Sarah asked him the standard questions she has to ask every time she sees a customer. The guy took his order and headed to the back of the room. He sat down next to a guy with blonde hair. The boy immediately started complaining why he didn't get more chocolate topping. The young man in uniform said that he should be grateful that he had brought him something. The blonde guy shouted, "Stop it." As soon as he heard that Gong was back from the army, he wanted to see him, adding that he was terribly disappointed in Gu Wang. Gong asked who told him about the end of the army and why he should meet him if he was leaving soon. The blonde boy replied that he had never worn a military uniform, so he wanted to see what it looked like. Gon heard him mocking because he was on his way to being discharged from the army. The young man with blonde hair just laughed at this and asked why Gong hadn't told anyone that he was going to the army. Gong said that everyone was busy with their own affairs. Everyone had entrance exams, and Gong's blonde friend was even traveling. Gong planned to fly to the United States and not return until he finished his studies there because he did not want to fly back and forth. The young man in uniform asked his friend if he missed him. Then the boys noticed the angle from which the car was drawn. They concluded that the author liked the uniform. The employees told Sarah that the stranger was still sitting there waiting for her, and they advised her to leave through the back door as if she were just going on a break. She quickly changed her clothes and closed the door behind her. Sarah realized that she had to run home quickly so that the stranger wouldn't meet her. Suddenly, the same stranger came around the corner of the building. He decided to look in just in case she wanted to leave that way, and he was right. The guy really liked Sarah's loose hair and complimented her. Sarah didn't appreciate the compliment. She was more interested in who the weirdo was. The guy asked the girl not to pretend, although Sarah did not understand what he was talking about. The stranger told her that the girl kept looking at him, and he decided to give her his phone number because he thought Sarah was too shy to come up to him first. Sarah could not understand what number was being talked about. She was not ashamed of the weirdo. She was afraid of him. The guy asked the girl if she liked him. Sarah was completely shocked, and the guy started telling her how the girl smiled at him the first time they met. And when she returned the card the next time, she deliberately touched his hand and then drew a heart on his coffee. Sarah sharply replied that the heart on coffee was drawn on all coffee drinks and that she did not remember the incident with the card at all. But even if it was a complete accident. The stranger didn't want to hear any words. His goal was to get Sarah's number. Despite the girl's explanations, the stranger did not leave her, telling her not to worry because he would give her his number. Sarah could not stand it and shouted at the strange guy that she was smiling at him because it was required by the regulations. Ghana did not understand why the boy could not understand her. Sarah shouted that he was not her type at all and that he had misunderstood. The guy didn't understand the word no at all and started telling her again that it was okay that she was shy, but that he would get angry if she was any more. Sarah stood her ground, but the weirdo decided she wanted to play with him. He poked her shoulder with his finger and angrily told her how much time he had spent on her. Sarah replied that the boy did all this of his own free will, but the guy was only interested in how the girl would pay for it. Sarah asked him to stop touching her, and if he didn't stop, she would call the police and pushed him away. The guy got angry and asked why she was treating him like a stalker and raised his hand to hit the poor girl. Suddenly, the fist stopped Gong. The weirdo asked who he was, but the guy in the uniform said that he was more interested in knowing who the weirdo was and what was going on. Later, a blonde friend of Gong's came over. They kindly asked the girl if she was okay. The stranger was angry because the boys had interfered with his business. But Gong's cold and sharp look, advising him to leave the place, was more convincing. If not, they would call the police in a moment. The girl made it perfectly clear that she was not interested in the weirdo, and this was Gong's main argument in the verbal altercation with the strange maniac. The stalker yelled that Sarah should have told him sooner and that the girl had deceived him. The guy regretted that he had wasted a lot of his time. Gong was sure that the stranger would not come back here again, and his friend asked if Sarah was okay. Gona was immensely grateful to the boys for their act and asked how she could repay them. Gona's friend replied that nothing was needed. Just the next time they are in a cafe, Sarah should take their order. Sarah said that they could order anything, and Gong turned around for a moment, concentrating on her, and walked on. Suddenly, the guys remembered that Gong had to fly to the United States. Her friends were shocked when they heard what she said. They asked Sarah if she had been hurt by the stranger and if she was okay. Sarah replied that she was fine and that there was no need to worry because she was only scared. The girls offered to go with them to a pizzeria and report the maniac, but Sarah refused, arguing that the situation would not happen again. Suddenly, a classmate interrupted their conversation. He said that Sarah shouldn't smile so much. It was Sun Yale, and he asked Sarah to be her boyfriend because he could protect her. But there is one condition. Sarah must smile only at her boyfriend, The girls were shocked by this condition. The friend pulled the inadequate guy away, telling him to shut up and not to talk nonsense because he was only making things worse. The friends quickly switched gears and started asking Sarah if she had gotten her rescuer's phone number. Unfortunately, she hadn't, because the topic had changed. Sarah regretted it because the rescuer seemed like a nice guy. Her friend wondered if the strange stalker would show up again, but Sarah assured her that everything was fine. The manager had raised her salary and promised to hire more security guards after yesterday's incident. Sarah was a very important employee for the cafe, so they couldn't let her get fired over such a trivial matter. Sarah also wanted to meet her rescuer again. Her friends immediately remembered that if the boy was in military uniform, he would not return quickly. But Sarah still wanted to thank him properly. A lot of time passed and Sarah never saw the guy again. Her friend's guess was right. Sarah was finishing up her last day at the cafe. Gona expressed her sincere gratitude to her manager for everything. Her employer did not even know where to find such a diligent and polite employee. Sarah was a real treasure. The manager asked if she had found a new job yet, and Sarah replied that she was currently working on her resume. The woman would be very jealous of Sarah's new employer, but she remembered the guy who saved her and wondered if Sarah had met him again. The employer believed that the girl stayed at the cafe because she wanted to meet her rescuer again. But Sarah said that she stayed in the cafe because the manager was a good person and it was a pleasure to work there. The woman thanked him for the compliment. Sarah added that perhaps it was faith that her path and the path of the rescuer would never cross. Or maybe she just didn't recognize him because it was dark outside. Although Sarah remembers the guy's face well, Gona really wanted to meet him again. That's when her employer caught her, asking her who Sarah was staying for. Gona replied laughing that it was for both of them. The woman asked her frankly if Sarah liked the guy. She thought about it, but said she didn't even remember his face well. The girls chatted amongst themselves, and in a moment they asked Sarah if she had sent her resume to the King Hotel. The girl said that she had, although the hotel recruits people with extensive experience. Her friend told her that students who graduated from university in just 2 years are never hired at the hotel. Sarah knew this, but decided to submit her resume there anyway, and it passed the first screening. The girls fell silent in amazement. This was Sarah's dream. They encouraged her and told her that even though it was hard at first, it was not fashionable to give up, and she had to go all the way. Another friend assured Sarah that she was not hired at the hotel because of her lack of experience. They would be fools to not hire her because they would be losing a treasure. They learned the results of her language tests in English, Japanese, and Chinese, and she passed them all with flying colors. The girls said that Sarah is a great girl and has a huge talent. She speaks a huge number of languages. It's really fascinating.
But Sarah had the most difficult stage ahead of her, namely the interview. The girls encouraged Sarah because her interviews for part-time jobs always went quickly and without problems. Her friends assured her that she would be lucky. But Sarah was still worried because it was not a part-time job. It was a full-time job. One of her friends slapped the table and told her not to worry. They decided that Sarah could practice on them, and they would be happy to help her. Sarah was not very eager to do it at first, but her friends encouraged her to do it. After putting on the costume, Sarah stood in front of her friends. Without any conversation, a friend shouted that Sarah was hired. The girl didn't even say anything about how she could be hired without an interview. Another friend said that Sarah had her back straight, and that's why they were hiring her. Then the girls asked Sarah to smile, and her friends gave her a 100 out of 100 points and rehired her. Sarah asked them to take it more seriously. The friends sat down on the couch and replied that they were quite serious. 25-year-old Gong was walking from the Harry Elkins Wiener Memorial Library. On the way, a guy in a red convertible and 2 girls approached him. They approached him, calling him poor, and asked if he was free to go to a party with them tonight. They were going to spend the whole weekend there. Gong refused, saying that he was not poor and would not go with them because he was returning to Korea. The company started asking why and if something happened to him, but Gong briefly replied that it was none of their business. Gong had a phone conversation with his father. The old man told him to fly home or his father would personally drag him out of the United States, but he was sure that Gong had learned enough theory to practice. The son snapped at him and said he didn't want to indulge him anymore. The father yelled at Gong, saying that he was not interested in his excuses. The maid asked if she should pack Van's things. He didn't answer and was deep in thought. He was already thinking about what would happen if he stayed in the United States forever. Gong realized that he would have to deal with many questions. At this time, Sarah got ready, dressed nicely, and in a businesslike manner. And after looking at her mother's portrait and promising her that she would do her best and come back soon, she went to the hotel. When she arrived at the King Hotel, she saw that there were a lot of people in the waiting room, all wanting to get a spicy seat, but this was only the first stage. And then it was Sarah's turn. She was called by name. There were 3 serious people in the office, including Gong's sister. Sarah greeted them and introduced herself as Jung Sarah. At that time, Gong had just arrived home. He was met and told that his car was waiting. One of my subordinates took the luggage. The driver was taking him home, even though he insisted on going to a hotel. The driver said that he could not do anything because his father wanted to have dinner with Gong. The boy thought that his father had made a huge feast in honor of this. Gong didn't want any of this, and even on the way home he was sick of it. Gong stands at the entrance to the King Hotel. In his office, his father was yelling at him because his son was fired on the first day. His father wanted him to learn the business from the bottom up. Gong was not just fired, he was expelled. His father was very angry. Gong was late for work, argued with his supervisors, and made unannounced phone calls to his boss. Gong said that he was not going to tolerate rude behavior just because he was a lower-level employee. He felt he had to do something about it. The father was so angry that he stood up. But Warren calmed him down, saying that Gong was still young and could not understand his father. The sister asked her father to let Gong study, and then they would discuss everything in a calm atmosphere. My father asked why Gong couldn't be more like his sister, and Horang assured him that she would sort it out and that Gong could leave. But before she did, she called him in for a one-on-one conversation. She asked him to stay at the hotel until he returned to the United States. She didn't care what he would study or what he would do. Gona will give him money for everything he needs, so he doesn't even have to think about coming back. She didn't need him in Korea. Finally, she added that he would get nothing, just like his mother. Gong saw that his sister hadn't changed at all, and he wondered how to spend his time. He wanted to meet his classmates. Sarah was walking behind him, determined to succeed. She remembered the hug that had been so pleasant to her soul. Only 4 people out of all those who applied for the internship were accepted. The supervisor of the internship immediately ordered the insecure people to leave the room. After all, they are the face of the hotel and have contact with customers every day, and they are ready to devote themselves entirely to the client. This hotel is no place for feelings. In the end, she asked if the interns were ready to do such a difficult task. Everyone unanimously answered yes. The first rule is to always greet the client with a smile. A special distinction of the King Hotel is a warm and open smile that immediately shows the professionalism of the staff. It is called the Hermes smile. This is an example from ancient mythology where Hermes is associated with eloquence, trade, and good fortune, among other things. Hermes sent sailors a fair wind and helped miners find rich veins and much more. In other words, a smile is their weapon. Therefore, they can never let Hermes' smile disappear from their faces. The subordinates all repeated Hermes' smile together. As Sarah was wiping down the exercise equipment, one of the old workers came up to her and said that Sarah was too beautiful for a disposable worker. Sarah did not understand the statement, so she asked what the woman meant. Gona explained that a disposable worker is someone who will barely stay in her job for more than a month. The employee showed the Sari that it was necessary to wipe off the sweat of the previous person who used the machine. The smile left the girl's face for a second, but she was immediately reminded of the smile of Hermes. The longtime worker was surprised by the girl's joy and asked why Sarah was so happy. Sarah told her about the smile of Hermes and the need to keep it going. The worker said that this rule only works in the hotel. Sarah said that they are in the hotel. The worker explained that the hotel starts from the lobby and they don't even wear uniforms. Gona gave a good tip to avoid the reception desk, which is how she has stayed here for 5 years. Sarah was surprised because she was working full-time. Gona agreed and said that it was hard to get a job like that, but if she did what she did, she might be able to. Sarah enthusiastically said that she wanted to be like the old worker, so she would try very hard. She saw the potential in her and saw the desire to give her best. Gona ordered her to wipe down all the exercise equipment. The girl quickly ran to fulfill the task and wipe everything to a shine. One of Gong's assistants is surprised and wonders how much a night in a hotel costs. Suddenly, he asked Gong what he was doing. Gong replied that he wanted to buy new clothes, and the guy didn't understand why it was not fashionable to just go and buy a thing in a store. Gong replied that he didn't like to wear things he bought. The fashion designer said that he had great taste and showed him one of the limited edition t-shirts, only 3 of them in the world. Gong wanted to take all 3, but the fashion designer said that one of the 3 t-shirts had already been bought. Gong said it was okay and took the last 2 t-shirts. The boy asked why he needed 2 identical t-shirts. The young man said he just didn't like it when someone dressed the same as him. Gong ordered to prepare everything for the flight to the United States. They would not return, so the subordinate had to pack their bags accordingly. The subordinate replied that his visa was not ready yet. Gong ordered him to hurry up because they were running out of time. The boy asked if he was sure to get the position and work full-time because it was because of Gong that the boy stopped being an intern. At which point Gong offered the boy a job he could handle perfectly, and the intern trusted Gong to become his assistant. Gong made a phone call and asked for a promotion and a full-time job. The girl replied that everything was ready. The intern was so impressed by this act that he was ready to follow Gong for the rest of his life. Gong was jogging on the treadmill when Sarah called out to him. He kept running and asked what was wrong. The girl cranked up the power of the machine, increasing its speed. A moment later, Gong just fell to the ground. The boy was angry and asked what the girl was doing. Sarah began to lecture Gong, asking him if he really thought she enjoyed wiping the sweat off the machines. Sarah wasn't ready to tolerate such permissiveness and threw a note in front of the guy, telling him about a wonderful night together and how hard Sarah was working. The envelope also contained a key card to the room. Gong realized that the girl had just confused him with someone else. Sarah was disappointed because the guy looked normal, although she could tell it was him by the strange t-shirt. A senior worker approached Sarah and said that a guy wearing a tiger t-shirt had given her a note. Sarah shouted that he was a pervert, and the woman did not understand what she meant. A Varan was walking around the gym. The workers were not expecting the director to come and asked why she had not warned them in advance. Horan replied that it was not necessary or that she could not just show up. The workers immediately replied that they were always happy to see the director. Avarin noticed that Sarah was very friendly with all the clients, and as her supervisor had instructed her, she always kept the smile of Hermes on her face. The director approached Sarah and asked her what the man she had just smiled at had said to her. Sarah greeted him and said she was just explaining how the hotel's free buffet works. Horan ordered the girl to repeat word for word what she had said to the customer. Sarah replied that the King Hotel offers free tea and snacks to its guests. The buffet is located in the lounge area and will be open every day from 5:30 to 7 o'clock. She added in the end that they would be happy to see the client there. Havarin asked what she needed to remember if she had already booked a hotel room. Suddenly, Sarah's curator came in and said that the girl was not yet fully ready to answer such questions. However, Sarah smilingly replied that the client needs to check whether the name under which the room is booked matches the name on the key card. The back of the key card must also bear the administrator's signature. Kuarid ordered Sarah to work at the reception desk, but the curator said that this job is given only after 2 years of experience, and she had only been working here for a month. Horde replied that in that case, let Sarah get the position after a year of work. The director added that Sarah had the right face to work in the lobby. She really liked Sarah's smile. Gong sat on his bed and looked at the clock. Suddenly, his sister opened the door to his room and ordered him to leave. Gong didn't plan to leave so quickly, so he asked Warren if it was okay for staff to just barge into a client's room. His sister reminded him that it was time to check out. Gong sarcastically continued that he was surprised by the quality of the hotel's service. Did the staff come personally to remind him of the end of his stay in the room? Horde replied that the room needed to be cleaned before the next client. Gong stood his ground and said that he was still her client, but that his sister didn't think it was too much. He asked what would happen if he wrote a complaint against his sister. Horan replied that complaints from visitors are reviewed with special attention at her hotel because they have strict rules. Gong asked how long Horan had owned the hotel. The girl replied that she would soon own a hotel, an airline, and other branches, but Gong did not care. He wished his sister good luck and said he had to go. The assistant finally waited for Gong, and he said he would take the suitcase. Gong asked the intern why he needed such a big suitcase with his belongings. The assistant replied that Gong himself said that they would not return to Korea, so he packed everything he needed. Gong called the boy with him. At that moment, Sarah was talking to her grandmother. Sarah and Gong had crossed paths so many times before, but they never recognized each other. The assistant called the owner over and held a letter in his hands. It was addressed to Gong. The assistant said that the letter had been delivered by a concierge, and he had no time to find out the sender's name because he was in a hurry. Gong ordered to throw the letter away, but the assistant decided to at least open it. Hotel King invites you to Han Misu's funeral ceremony. At that very moment, Gong got out of bed and looked at the letter. The assistant did not understand what was happening. Gong replied that they were returning to Korea immediately. The girls at the front desk noticed a customer who had rented a suite. An elderly woman asked Sarah something and she said it was her. The girls thought the woman had come to complain about something. But suddenly she just hugged Sarah. The woman was very pleased because, thanks to her career as an opera singer, she had been to many hotels and experienced different types of the best service. But she was first awakened by an old recording of her performance. It was as if Gona had returned to her youth when she was a prima donna. Gona felt as if she was singing on a big stage again. Sarah replied that she didn't think anyone here who loves classical music wouldn't know about it. She added that it was an honor for them to have such a distinguished person choose their hotel. The woman was very pleased that her work was remembered, and the elderly woman added that she would not forget Sarah. The girls at the reception desk were shocked. No wonder Sarah has the status of the best employee. And no wonder she was allowed to work in the lobby with less than 2 years of experience. Gong came home, and his father was happy to see him, but asked if something had happened to make him come back so abruptly. Gong replied that nothing had happened. Father asked how Gong was doing in Korea, and the boy replied briefly that nothing had changed. As usual, father stood his ground and asked Gong what he wanted to manage, a hotel, an airline, or something else. His sister changed the subject, saying that he needed a little time because he had just arrived. Suddenly, Gong interrupted his sister and said that he was choosing to run the hotel. The father was happy to hear this from his son. He said that if Gong answered the question so quickly, he must have already thought about it. The father congratulated his son and said that the hotel was his. The father was happy because finally, Hong would be able to work with his sister in a high position. Horan assured him that she would help him, since it was his first time working in a hotel. My father was happy to hear this. After all, Horan was the first to start her business at the hotel. And in any case, his father is only interested in Gong's management skills. He is still not sure who is more suitable to inherit the business. His father asked him to live at home instead of in a hotel. Gong replied that he was more comfortable living in a hotel. The father told his son to stay at home at least until his mother's wake was over. Han did not understand who his father was talking about. He barely remembered his mother's appearance. He still didn't know if she was dead or just disappeared. His father was angry because he was still waiting for his mother to return, and he went to his bedroom, angry at his son's stupidity. My sister said that my brother shouldn't take it so personally because my father is just upset. Horan said that Gong even looked too much like his own mother, and she couldn't even make a life for herself. She added that if Gong wanted to stay at the hotel rather than at home, he could stay there and she would talk to his father. The car assistant asked if Gong would like to get in the car. Gong said that the assistant should drive alone. But the boy got out of the car and followed Hong, even though he had ordered him to stay in the car. The assistant said he didn't even have anyone to drink soju with on a day like this. Gong replied that the guy was very straightforward, so he chose him. He added that the guy doesn't have to force himself to smile all the time. Gong was getting ready for his first day at work, and the assistant looked at the watch and asked when Gong would fix it. The guy told the assistant to just leave the watch and give it to him. The assistant said that on the first day of his job, he had to look good to make a good impression. Gong replied that what he hates most is when people act too pretentious. Gong added that not everything has to be perfect and you don't have to smile at everyone, even when you don't really want to smile. Gong does not behave pretentiously because pretentiousness is a thing for adults. He said that if the assistant told him what to do, they would have to say goodbye. But the assistant was sure that Gong would not just let him go. Gong noted that his assistant was used to his emotional outbursts. The assistant jokingly replied that if he hadn't been so quick, he would have run away long ago. Gong remembered that he had forgotten his phone. He wanted to go back, but the assistant asked him to keep going, and he would just ask someone to bring his phone. The front desk called and asked Sarah to find the phone in the suite and bring it to the administration, which she found it. The girl was delighted with the size of the room. It was bigger than her entire house. Sarah picked up the phone but got ink on her hands. She went to wash her hands, and Gong went back to the room to pick up the phone. The boy wondered why his pen was broken, and then he remembered that his sister had emphasized that he should follow the rules. She asked him to come back when she made a copy, but Gong wanted to wait until the copy was certified. Gong exposed his torso and was heading for the shower when he saw Sarah washing her hands. Sarah blushed and gave Gong his phone. Gona explained that she had come to his room to get it, and she was very embarrassed. Gona apologized very much and left the room quickly. Gon remembered Sarah. She was the one who yelled at him. He stopped her and asked if they had met before. She replied that she could not meet him anywhere before. Gon reminded her of a story about the treadmill, and she called him a pervert. Suddenly, Sarah remembered the guy with the tiger on his t-shirt. Sarah remembered that it was the first and last time she received such a letter. Gon wanted an apology from Sarah because she called him a pervert for nothing. But the girl thought differently. In her opinion, it was Gon who should apologize to her. He asked why he should apologize. Sarah replied that if he didn't know why he had to apologize, they had nothing to talk about. She left, wishing Gon a good day. But the boy insisted on talking to her and told her that he was not done talking to her. Sarah correctly refused to continue the conversation and pressed the elevator button. After that, she asked him not to follow her because she was not interested in his proposals. Gong warned that he would not be nice to Sarah from now on, and that she should never cross his path again. Sarah agreed and smilingly replied that she was going to do just that. Gon was angry at the girl's smile and ordered her not to smile at him like that. But the girl replied that smiling was part of the hotel's policy and always required to treat guests with courtesy. Sarah added that if the guy didn't like her smile, he could just change hotels. The elevator arrived. Sarah wanted to get on, but Gong blocked the entrance with his hand, saying that he would go first. The door closed, the smile disappeared from Sarah's face, and she was furious with the guy's strange behavior. Sarah could not get over this pervert. She had never met such an annoying person in her life. The elevator doors opened. Gong didn't go anywhere and looked at Sarah with a frown. The smile was back on her face. He wanted to make it clear that he didn't care what the girl said about him. Gong advised the girl to remember this act on his part because not everyone would forgive her for such behavior. He hopes that she will be more well-mannered like a real King Hotel employee. Sarah promised herself that as soon as she saw the guy, she would show him. The gala evening has begun, and in honor of welcoming the new hotel director, Gugam, flowers will be presented by the best and most well-mannered hotel employee, Jong Sarah. The hostess asked for applause. Gong and Sarah met again. The girl handed the boy a bouquet of flowers and said, "Congratulations, director." Sarah and Gong are talking about the impossible. The guy wants to get an extra job at the hotel. Sarah didn't understand why he would want to do that, since he was the hotel manager. Gong calmly said he had the weekend off. Sarah didn't understand how a guy could be so shameless. Gong added that he would work for 2 and only on weekends. Sarah replied that Gong could not get a part-time job as a hotel manager. He said that this would motivate him to work harder. Sarah couldn't believe he could go so far, and Gong added that he had heard that the owner of the hotel, King, was also an employee at the same hotel. He promised to do anything to get hired. Sarah decided to arrange a smile test for Gon. The guy's first attempt didn't really look like a smile, more like a grin. Sarah thought he was unpleasant to look at. Gona said she could feel some kind of awkwardness in the boy. Gon asked to try again. The second attempt was successful, very successful. His smile was just beautiful. Sarah was captivated by his smile and her heart melted. Gona could hardly control herself from falling in love. Gong blushed and said that Gong could start working next week. Gong thanked Sarah very much, and she said she would do her best. Sarah added that Gong should work hard and give his best, and she asked if he would be able to do it. Gon was confident and said he could handle it. Sarah said she would expect him at the end of the next work week. But Gong wanted to get started immediately. He took a shovel and immediately started digging up the bushes. Sarah ran over and said he shouldn't do that. The boy could not stop. Gong quickly dug a hole and planted the bamboo in it. Sarah laughed. Gong didn't understand why, so he asked her what was so funny. She replied that she had never seen him like this before. Gong asked her to evaluate his work. He asked for Sarah's opinion on the matter. Her friends came to visit Sarah. They were delighted with the views. Sarah was grateful that her friends decided to be the first guests because there is a lot of competition in this business. Gona was genuinely surprised when she saw the names on the reservation list. The friends said that of course they had booked rooms because it was the first contribution to his work. Moreover, they wanted to come together and see everything with their own eyes. They appreciate Sarah's efforts and realize that she has invested everything in this hotel. The girls thought that it must have been difficult to decorate the building, but it looks great. One of their friends asked what this guy was doing here and why he was wearing a badge. Sarah simply replied that it was a long story. The girls said that Gon was just working a part-time job, but her friends saw it as a reason to see her. Sarah said that she was here to fulfill her dreams, and she was a little ashamed of making her boyfriend work hard, although her friends immediately said that the boyfriend was only working for her to be with her. Sarah recalled how she didn't understand simple things until she took part in the Land King's ceremony. Gona realized that her dream was not to work in a hotel. The girl really wanted to have a place that would be unforgettable for many people, the same as it used to be for her and her mother, the King Hotel. Gona wanted to create a place that would make people smile from the bottom of their hearts, so she created such a place. A girl invited her friends to a hotel called Amur.